Shalom and happy Sunday to everyone. This is Daniella Bloom, live from Los Angeles. I am so excited to unpack with you all the incredible week I had at NRB, the National Religious Broadcasters Conference, which took place this year in Nashville. I got a 2-for-1. I got to go to an incredible conference with 4,500 passionate pro-America, pro-Israel Christians. And I'm going to share my takeaways on exactly what this Jewish gal walked away with after spending several days with this amazing, amazing community. So grateful for them. Then I'm going to tell you what it was like to have another manifested moment of being invited on a personal tour of the Daily Wire. Daily Wire, as many of you know, have moved from Los Angeles to Nashville. They were a huge part in waking me up as a free thinker. I cannot go a day without logging into the Morning Wire every morning, as well as listening to Ben Shapiro and several other amazing voices today, including the God King himself, Jeremy Boring, who came out of a meeting to meet me directly. And we shared some thoughts and some views and some words. And then I got to go to each studio, including Candance, Matt Walsh's, Michael Knowles. It was thrilling, to say the least. And yes, I know many of you want to hear if I ran into Candance, and if I did, what I would have said to her. We will get to that. And if that wasn't enough, in Judaism, we say Dayenu. Dayenu, we say it around Passover, like it's already enough, God, that you led us out of Egypt. Dayenu, that you gave us the 10 Commandments. Dayenu, that you gave us the land of Israel. That's how I felt this week in Nashville. Dayenu, with all of the abundance that kept coming my way. I was uplifted. I was inspired. And boy, did I need it. So many of us need this uplifting and inspiration today, considering what we're up against with so much misinformation and propaganda aimed at Israel and aimed at Trump. But if you know, like I always say, there's two parties today, the woke and the awake. So it really doesn't matter what your politics are, what your religion is. Either you are conditioned to believe that it's the other's fault, if only the other would change, or you're awake enough to know that we're all collectively being screwed as we the people when we are denied ability to have freedom of speech, the right to mitigate our own risks. So many things happening today that seem so obvious to the awake, but not so obvious to the woke. And if you know, I really don't need to give you 50 examples. Let's get to it. I wish this was live right now on Facebook so I can actually engage with you guys, but I was having technical difficulties, so we're just going to do it this way today. So let's start off with my surprising takeaways as a Jewish gal amongst 4,500 pro-America, pro-Israel Christians. My first takeaway was, man, do these Christians love to pray? And I loved it. I'll tell you why. As a Jewish girl, of course, prayer was a big part of my upbringing and my practicing, but it was, to me, very formally taught. We were taught to pray during services, during the holidays, when we would eat a meal, after the meal, when there was someone, who passed away, there's the mourner's Kaddish. We had all these traditional prayers, and they're beautiful and timeless. And anywhere you are in the world, you have Jews saying the same prayers with the same language, sharing the same ethno-religion. But what I loved about the Christian community was their just ability to do what I call improvising prayer. Like that at any moment during any time of the presentation, before or after, the Christians would stop and say, let's pray. Let's pray to our Heavenly Father. and it was impromptu and it was relevant. And, as a law of attraction coach, this was very powerful for me because words do matter. When you at any moment can stop and say, hey, God, hey, Lord, I'm surrendering here. I need some guidance. I need some inspiration. I am open. I'm available. We can all take a page from that and be reminded that just like our power of free choice is at any moment available to us, so too is the power of prayer. So no matter what your religion or your beliefs, remember there is so much power in surrendering, asking for guidance, remembering that there is greater order. And especially when you feel that you're in overwhelm or in chaos, or you don't know which direction to go to stop and pray is very grounding, very helpful. And that was one of my big takeaways. Another takeaway being around so many unapologetically pro-America, pro-Israel Christians. First of all, thank you. Thank you. I got more uplifting around this Christian crowd regarding Israel than many of the events I've been to as a Jew amongst my own Jewish people. Because as they say, there's 3 Jews, 5 opinions. But when it comes to this Christian group, there is a clarity amongst standing for Israel, standing for the Judeo-Christian values that both countries have been founded on, standing for the people of Israel. And they are awake. They understand that Israel is a tiny, tiny, mighty nation that welcomes its doors to all religions and stands for democracy, stands for women's rights, and even stands for gay rights. And the propaganda has been relentless with painting Israel as the oppressor. It's almost laughable. It's laughable because if anybody knows oppression and genocide, it's the Jews. In fact, the term genocide was created because of the atrocities done to the Jews. The term anti-Semitism was created because of the atrocities done to the Jews. And it's just crazy how we're in an upside down world. But the Christians see it clearly. The way they speak about it, the way they pray for it, the music they sang. They had this beautiful Israeli singer come. They had family of active hostages in Gaza coming to tell their story. They had an incredible display created by this amazing Israeli, and I will tag him in this video, where he created a virtual reality experience called Bear Witness, which is the minimum we can do, is to bear witness to the atrocities of October 7th, because so many people even now say it didn't really happen. It's AI. It's an exaggerated report. I mean, this is up there with Holocaust denying, and it's crushing, but it's okay because resilience is in our DNA and God sees all. And the Jews have been through this before, and we will get through this again. This I can promise you. So anyway, back to my takeaway. So the first takeaway was the praying and the unapologetically stancing on Israel. The other takeaway I got, I'm from LA, okay? So I'm surrounded by people in the industry who want to see and be seen, want to get something produced, looking for their next opportunity, and who knows who. And all of that comes from kind of an energy of lack. Will I be heard? Will I be seen? Will my idea get to where it needs to go? I'm going to push myself in there. You didn't need to do that at this conference. You had, the top Christian TV production, movie studios, conservative outlets, podcasts, all there. And as soon as they sense your passion and that you're motivated by impact, many, many times during this week, people would stop what they were doing and say, I can't help you, but let me take you clear across this huge room to someone who can. And there was no pushiness. There was an element of help. Let me help you. Let me help you get to where you want to go, because I see you've been divinely inspired. Amazing, amazing and incredible. And I got incredible opportunities that were just landed in my lap because I was willing to show up and share my passions. I mean, let's not lie. I was kind of a hit there, right? I'm this awake Jew who's pro-America, pro-Israel, pro-Trump. I was like the trifecta. Here she is. Let's talk to her. So it was fantastic. And so I got to be on a lot of amazing, amazing podcasts, which we'll be sharing to the world very soon, including doing some interviews with News Nation and NBC. Even magical things like I was on this podcast called City of God by Coral Tree Ministries, I think. And they shoot out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And the guy's lovely, Pastor Rob. And we had a wonderful, candid conversation on the reality today of, anti-Semitism and the double standards that Jews feel compared to other minorities. And he said, wow, you were incredible. Have you heard of the Pat Bet David podcast? And I'm like, of course I have. Actually, Adam and I are now friends, and I hope to be on his Saucecast podcast very soon. And he's like, well, Pat goes to my church. I'm going to put in a good word for you. Guys, I mean, getting on the BPD podcast, it's like trending 4 on Spotify. That is huge. And to be honest, they need more women. They need more women dialoguing on that show. And I would love that opportunity. And Pat's old stomping ground is Los Angeles. We have so much to talk about. Okay, so that was my other takeaway. People are so readily wanting and willing to help you succeed because every single person there is there because of impact first. And you don't need to be Christian to benefit from Judeo-Christian content and common sense. Okay, because the true essence of Judeo-Christian values is personal accountability, is grace, is forward thinking. It's really common sense, okay? Back to basic stuff, which is kind of why I wrote my book, The World Where I Belong. More on that later. But it's been really incredible to be around this energy. And I'm taking that home with me, If it's meant to be, let God lead you to it. Don't feel that it's not going to happen. If you're divinely inspired to create something, let that direction lead you because there is direction. You just have to be patient and listen for it and be open to it, no matter how it's packaged. Okay. Okay. So if NRB wasn't already amazing enough and all the amazing people I've met at NRB, then I secured, because I didn't know this was going to happen. When I left for Nashville, I didn't know if I was going to Daily Wire. I did not have anything secured with my connections there yet, but I was just hoping and praying for the best, and it came through. Caitlin, Jeremy Boring's assistant, who has been such an angel in this, she's like, you are confirmed. We'll see you Thursday at 3. I'm going to make sure Jeremy gets to meet you. I'm going to grab him out of a meeting. I'm going to give you a whole tour of the facility. Oh my gosh, guys. I felt, first of all, I was treated like so well, like I was a celebrity. Okay. The Daily Wire also is in a very incognito building. It's not like you see a big sign that says Daily Wire. I mean, you can imagine for security, they have to do that. So does PragerU. Unfortunately, these are the times we live in. So I'm in my Uber heading to Daily Wire. This is like a 5-year in the making manifested moment. And, when you get there, you have to sign an NDA. You have to take a picture. You have to agree to not take any pictures when you're in there. I mean, it's like a whole thing. They take it very seriously, as they should. So I get in, and it's like the offices themselves are very modern. So there's it reminds me of like a Silicon Valley office. Everything's glass. You can see everybody's meetings and all that. And there's a central location with cubes, and everyone's doing their stuff. And then I got to meet the God King himself. He came right out, and I'll share some pictures with us together. And he, of course, remembered me when we were first introduced by John Voight a few years back when I was trying to get FOA off the ground again. And I thanked him. I said, Jeremy, you are so principled. You're in so much integrity when you speak. And I know you have to juggle a lot of balls, a lot of strong opinions under you, sometimes conflicting, and you do it with grace. And I really appreciated what you said about Candance, dear Candance, which I have to do a whole other show about. When he had said, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And Candance has been a great hammer to many of us in the free thinking world. She's called out BLM. She's calling out Big Pharma. She wasn't afraid to call George Floyd a drug addict who's been incarcerated several times and didn't really die. His actual death, according to the autopsy, wasn't because of Derek Chauvin's knee, but because he had such high amounts of cocaine and he had COVID and all these things. She really was able to do that. And she got herself on the map for speaking against a very unpopular narrative. But now Candance, as a hammer, as a bulldog, is biting the wrong hands. And we are seeing this, and it's very, very disturbing. And every day that goes by, it's getting worse. And this is not lost on me, people. I know some of you who are always mentioning, making sure I'm aware of Candance and Zoen's true colors in regards to the Arab-Israeli conflict. And it's very concerning. So more on that later. But right now, I'm going to continue on the high of going from room to room, seeing where all the studios were, being able to sign my children's book to Jeremy, to Ben, to Matt, to Michael, and even to Candace. So before I left, they made sure to give me Jeremy's chocolates. Remember, he has the 2 types of chocolates, milk chocolate for the ladies and chocolate with nuts for the gentlemen, because there's only 2 types of chocolates, if you know what I mean. And then I was given the leftist tears tumbler that Ben Shapiro used to always advertise. And it was incredible. Plus, I got to pitch to 2 different producers there regarding some potential new ideas for future Daily Wire shows. And both producers were very interested. Now, they have a full lineup for next year, but they definitely want to keep the conversation going. And we will. And I have some things to do in the meantime. So it's very, very exciting. So Diana, okay, so we have the conference, we have Daily Wire, and if that wasn't enough, who was coming to us that evening is Mr. Trump himself. So I literally went from the Daily Wire back to the Opryland Forum Resort Hotel to go through security and go right to the front row of all places to listen to Mr. President Trump. There's no one like him. And guys, I have some videos already on Facebook with him speaking. As you can see, this guy is unfazed. You would never know that he has any ridiculous bazillion lawsuits thrown at him where they're trying to siphon his money. You know, they're trying to get him kicked out of New York and devalue all his properties. You would never know it. This guy is an anomaly. He is looking younger and younger, more charismatic, if you can believe it. He's healthier. I think he lost a bunch of weight. He is so clear that he wants to get this country and this world back on track. And no one can argue that if Trump was in office right now, our country and our world would not be in the precarious, vulnerable situations they are now, where we really are headed potentially to a World War III, if not a civil war. None of this would happen under Trump, especially what's happening now in Israel. One of the first things Biden did when he came into office is he took off the sanctions that were on Iran. And he took off the Houthis as terrorists under the Yemen government. And what happens when you give terrorists access to money? Problems may occur in the name of Hamas and Hezbollah. Say what you want about Netanyahu, clearly mistakes were made, but none of this would have happened under Trump. And same with Ukraine. Trump would sit down and negotiate with Putin and Zelensky. He would take on what happened with NATO. You know, what's happening in Ukraine, just a side note, it reminds me of the family court system where everyone, the father and the mother, spend everything they have in the family court system, and then they're left with nothing, and they still have to settle. So why not settle right away? And this is the problem with the current administration. There is a blank check after blank check to Ukraine with no ROI whatsoever, unlike with Israel, We absolutely have a return on investment, takes a fraction of the aid, turns it right back around, gives it back to America and investing in US military contracts and weapons, not to mention an exchange of intelligence, including the Iron Dome technology. What are we getting out of Ukraine? So please don't lump in Israel and Ukraine in the same boat, because it is absolutely not the same thing. Okay, I digress. So more with abundance. So Trump was incredible, just incredible. Once you hear Trump, it can only be Trump. Now, on a side note, I still love RFK, and RFK deserves a platform. He deserves to be in this race. It's a win-win because we get to hear RFK. We get to hear why he's so anti-establishment, why he's for freedom of speech, why he is so credible and speaking up against big pharma and the crap that they have been putting into our foods and our medicines that are making all of us way sicker and way fatter. I'm team RFK also all the way, and they both need to be running. God willing, in a perfect world, they run together, but I don't see that happening. I think Tulsi Gabbard is going to be one of their VPs, as she should be. That will definitely bring in the Middle America vote. And also make sure you're registered to vote on Tuesday, because I know we're very jaded by the voting process, but this is local elections. Who you choose for your school board, who you choose for assembly, these do make a huge, huge difference. So vote for the right candidates and turn up, because the more people turn up, the less likely nefarious activity can happen. Okay, so anyway, so Trump was amazing. Daily Wire was amazing. Let me make sure I'm covering everything. Oh, guys, listen. I got to see a private screening of this phenomenal documentary. It's 60 minutes long. It's done perfectly. It grabs your attention, the editing, the speakers they have, the clips they use. Shout out to my friend and co-writer and co-producer and co-director of this documentary, Simone Alex, who we bumped into each other at NRB, and she's like, come to my private screening. Eric Metaxas, yes. Eric Metaxas, who wrote the book that this documentary is based off of, was there, and I got to meet him too. This movie not only needs to be in every church, it should be into every synagogue, because the case can be made. During COVID, we saw something terrible. We saw so much compliance, and we saw it from our religious leaders when they allowed their churches and synagogues to be closed in the name of safety and COVID, but no issue with having strip clubs opened and liquor stores. And there was not enough standing up for we the people, for our own God-given rights that should never be treaded on. And I loved what Charlie Cook said in the documentary. He said, Jesus Christ never told us to be nice. He told us to have compassion. Where is the backbone of the church? Where did the backbone of the Jews go? What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. And there was too much silence. And I can't say enough good things. It is worth your time. It's streaming right now on Epoch. Go check it out. Letters of the American Church. Okay. What else? I have to also tell you some magic stories that happened with my own stuff. Okay. So the last part of the conference, it's what's called a pitchathon, where you literally have heads of movie studios, television networks, radio networks just sitting there, and you have 7-minute slot to like pitch your heart out with whatever it is that you want to see done. Now, as many of you know, I have an amazing children's book called The World Where I Belong. I wrote this children's book to be turned into a feature, whether it's an animated short or live action. This is great crossover content where you don't have to be religious or Christian to benefit from the back to basics fable that is my wake-up call to America and to our world and to our children, to our families. And it's all about, in a very visual, metaphorical journey, how children can understand and appreciate the essence of what freedom really is and how it's been lost, how so many of the people in this country have been spoiled on the very freedoms that have been fought for, and what makes this world so great if you can pull back the lens and see what true freedom is and what the power of free choice is and what that means to your life right now as a forward-thinking human being and American. So I got to pitch that to certain people, and I also got to pitch my podcast that I'm going to be launching. I do think there is a huge need, tell me if you guys agree, for lifestyle content like marriage, divorce, parenting, kids on the spectrum, sex, drugs, kind of like what Oprah Winfrey did in the 90s with her talk show. There's no one doing that as a psychotherapist without a woke agenda. We have the amazing Dennis Prager, we have the amazing Jordan Peterson, but they're men. And we have Candace Owens as our fighter on one side, and we have amazing Megyn Kelly, who's phenomenal, but her background is journalism and news, who is the relatable, common sense voice who can speak from decades of experience as a psychotherapist, but also as a mom who was in a long-term marriage, gone through the family court systems, and had to like rebrand herself in her 40s with a new job, becoming a single parent, dating again, having children on the front lines of tyranny at school, dealing with transgender issues, vaccine issues, anti-racism issues, critical race theory, new diversity and inclusion classes. I'm seeing that all from the front lines, and I'm living it. And I feel like there's an audience who's starving for this, who wants to see relatable content that speaks to them and what they're dealing with every day as well. So I made a good case for it, and they loved it. So we have to follow up with that as well. But I'm going to tell you guys something magical that happened. When we were in line for pitching, the guy who was in charge of it was like, guys, we have a special treat for you. We have two gentlemen here from Kingdom Story Company, and they're interested in hearing completed screenplays only. And I don't know if I said this out loud or what, but I said, oh, shoot, my screenplay is not completed. I mean, my book is completed, but my screenplay is not adapted yet. And this guy next to me turns to me, he's a total stranger, and he's like, you're pitching your heart out. Many of us don't have completed screenplays. They don't need to know that. You need to pitch and then pitch your heart out. And when they give you the green light, then you figure it out. And he just smacked me out of like, oh, it's not, I want it to be like the good girl and follow the rules. But he's like, no, this is your chance. Go and pitch your heart out. And I'm like, what is your name? He's like, Bill. And I'm like, Bill, I'm going to remember you. And he was so sweet. And he just really pushed me to just go out and pitch my heart out, which is exactly what I did. And I'm going to tell you the magic that happened with that in a minute. The other angel on my shoulder too was the Israelis. Listen, I've been around a lot of people, a lot of different types of men with the work I do, with the divorce groups and working with different people from all different backgrounds. I've also had a great dating life before now I'm in a committed relationship, but there's no one like the Israelis. I'm sorry, maybe I'm biased. There's no one like the Israelis. So there was this Israeli near, and he saw that I was pitching. There was a bunch of, there was a handful of Jews there, at least, maybe more. But Neo came from Israel. He was speaking, and he had a bunch of his own pitches. And he's like, and I said, Nir, I don't have an appointment. I didn't make appointments for all of these people. He's like, you're with me. Don't worry about it. The Israeli dugri, like the sechel. And it was so masculine. It was so like, I'm going to make sure you're protected. You get what you need. And I love that energy. And masculine men who are now called toxic for this energy is insane, because we need way more unapologetic masculine men who are the protectors, who are the leaders, who want to do the hard things that many people cannot. And anyway, Nir's energy was also phenomenal. So I'm not going to forget him. So you can see my Jewish star, my flag. So anyway, it's the end of the evening, and the last two people that are there are these two gentlemen from Kingdom Story Company. The entire room has cleared out. There was maybe 400 people in this room. No one's there. It's just the three of us. Guys, I don't know just how big these people are. Have you guys heard of Lionsgate? I don't know. Anyone's heard of Lionsgate? Lionsgate is a major movie studio who's been in Hollywood forever. Well, their division of faith-friendly content is called Kingdom Story Country. So Bobby Downs was there to hear pitches. He has a movie right out now, which everyone should see, because these numbers are really important for crossover content, called Ordinary Angels with Hilary Swank. We just saw it this week and it's phenomenal. Everyone go see it. But anyway, I didn't know who this guy was when I sat down to meet him. So I'll tell you what happened. I sit down to meet him and his colleague. They're both from LA, and we have an instant rapport. I'm like, I had to come all the way from LA to pitch to Nashville, and how, you know, I've just loved my time here as an awake Jew. And of course, they're so excited to talk with me. The number two questions I get, the two questions that are most popular are, why aren't all Jews conservative? And when did I wake up as a free thinker? So I shared my answers with them. And he's like, okay, so pitch me what you got, which is so exciting. It's just like in the movies. Go ahead, give me your pitch. So I'm pitching to him my book, and I'm passionate about this boy, and he's disgruntled, and he just thinks there's a world out there that's better for him. And he goes to the land of me, and then he goes to the land of we. And then anyway, he stops me mid-pitch, and he's like, you need to get this right over to Angel Studios. Angel Studios, who's went from a bankrupt company to like $123 million company in less than a year because of their documentary, Sound of Freedom. And he's like, let me go see if I can grab Jared for you. And he literally gets up out of the seat, goes to the hallway, but Jared had left. And he's like, I want you to use, here's Jared's personal email, here's my personal email. Tell Jared, tell him, Bobby says, take a listen to this pitch. Guys, that is how I ended my week at NRB, is getting the head of Kingdom Story Company, Bobby Downs, who's a sweetheart, who was like, I'm going to personally recommend your book to Angel Studios. They need to produce it and make it and share it. And use my name, use my email, here's his email, go to the next steps. I mean, my gosh. And had I not met that guy, Bill, and that other Israeli near, who was like, just show up and give it your all, man, again, this was divine. It was a divine, phenomenal week. And I'm so glad I got to share this with you guys. Thank you for coming along on my journey. I know many of you were following me that week when I was posting, and it's so much fun to have you with me because you knew where I started. I mean, none of us will forget the day that we came out as free thinkers. I'll never forget the day I came out as a Trump supporter on Facebook, and like the Red Seas have parted. Like, and who did I get the most hate from? Who did I get the most hate from? From my liberal Jewish friends. But finally, many of them are waking up now, as a lot of the other people in this country are. Every single Uber driver I talk to is like, Trump all the way, enough is enough. Many of us are pissed. We have buyer's remorse with Biden. We see the double standards. We see the hypocrisy. We see the witch hunt. And we want America back. Open borders is affecting everybody. Inflation and economy is affecting everybody. And we have to get our priorities in check and not pay too much attention to the distractions, namely with pronouns, the racism tantrums, the climate change, anything else to distract. Oh, and let's not forget, Trump deranged syndrome is still very much alive and well, and that's the systemic brainwashing by the media. That's the main problem we have. But people are waking up, and this country was founded on by the people and for the people, and we are the people, and Trump and RFK know this. So continue to use your voice, speak up, speak out, stand where the light shines. God sees all. I know that we're in some very, very intense times, but the darkness seems intense, but so does the light. So keep standing where the light shines, keep standing with your allies. That is what you can do. And every day you have your free choice to take your own personal accountability, your own ability to have grace towards others, to shine that light. So thank you so much. And until next time, this is Daniella Bloom. God bless you, and God bless America, and God bless Israel.